Are we moving this back for a second read? Are we sending it back to policy to fine tune it a little bit and bring it back with the proper jargon in it? So that we're really looking at, you know, we have some time, as Mr. Johnson said. You want it back again?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll send it back to you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. I don't want you to get lonely.
Andrew and I will be meeting.
Yep. Okay, policy 6041, cell phone electronic device policy, first read.
Might as well take that one too, if that's okay, Ellen. This policy has been in the pipeline for policy committee for, what, Ellen, maybe a year and a half. Students have come to us. They had some real concerns over the total ban of electronic devices in the schools. The policy that you have in front of you is a draft taken right from a student authored policy. Administration was charged with a couple of things, which you'll see reflected in this version of the draft. One being that the electronic devices would be allowed at the high school level only if they are used as a tool in support of the educational process and in support of instruction, and only under the direction of teachers in high school classrooms. The policy goes on to state that that would only be in effect during the designated school day. Outside the designated school day, students would be allowed at the high school level to use and have with them the devices. And also, the administration was also asked to be specific as to what these electronic devices are. As we all know, this changes daily, so that was a bit of a challenge to try to cover everything that there currently is. So we included the term similar devices because we don't know what the future holds. There could be something that comes out tomorrow or the next day that we didn't anticipate in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't change the policy much at the lower levels, middle school and elementary school. Electronic devices are permitted on school grounds. However, they should not be heard or seen during the school day. And that's reflective of our current policy. The policy goes on to provide consequences for violation. I will say, as is typical, the students came up with much stronger consequences than the board had and the administration had for violation of policy. I must say that the board, the committee, has been very impressed with the students' perseverance and their hard work in bringing this policy forward. They've done their homework. They've talked to various faculty members. They've spoken to the students. They've done surveys. Any number of times they've come before the policy committee to present their case. So this is the result for a first read of a policy that would, in some circumstances, allow the use of electronic devices in our schools.
Discussion. You were first.
When we had originally started talking about this several months ago, I was one who advocated no electronic devices should be permitted in the buildings, period. I just thought that the administration of enforcing a policy of letting the kids bring them in and keep them in this manner, I didn't think it was going to work, be efficient administratively. And as the students have come forth and publicly stated our meetings, they aren't very well enforced. Kids are utilizing them for all sorts of different purposes. That being said, I would like to change the policies that devices will be permitted and exclude for educational use, and go to more of a concept as Mr. Kisko, well, maybe he was saying that, but in the sense that statutory versus kind of common law. Let's not statutorily put in for educational use. Let's just utilize the old basic concepts that teachers have. If they found the devices to be disruptive in the class, then that would be the grounds. The teacher would still have that old concept. Put your cell phone away, it's being disruptive. We don't need to say, just because it's a cell phone, that we have to have a specific policy for the cell phone. It's disruptive. If the student was caught cheating, we don't need to have the electronic device policy. Cheating is a violation of the basic education, of all educational institutions. We would punish the student for the cheating offense. But as in all our policies, I like to think in terms of practicality. And if you start throwing in that educational use of electronic devices, now you get into that discretionary area where I can just see the kids are constantly arguing, yeah, this was an educational purpose, me talking to my girlfriend because it calmed me down, whatever. I would just like to see more old-fashioned remedies for when students use any of these electronic devices inappropriately. And now that it's there, it's not going to ever come back out of our future with these young kids. I'd like to see the words educational uses be eliminated.
Excuse me?
Hang
Originally,
on, hang on. Oh. Have a seat. We'll get to you in a minute. You can't just walk up and speak, you gotta address the board, all right? You gotta let the board members speak first, then we'll give you your 2 cents. You wanna see the words educational process?
Educational use be eliminated. Devices will be permitted only during the designated, well, I guess, once you.
Once you take that word out, that kinda makes that a
Well, the educational use,
interesting sentence.
I just think should just be permitted, period. That would be mine, and then, no, I mean, obviously, if you're going to permit the devices, if it's in the school day or not in the school day, it's the same thing. So I just think that, students, if we're really going to say devices are gonna be permitted for educational use, I think we should just go the full yard and say, we have other means to assure that young people are acting responsibly, and that's where I'd like to see this go. More of an honor system, trust system. It's going to be an administrative situation which we know the teachers and the administrators have not been successful with up to now, and why not just admit it? It's here to stay. Let them have it. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Chris?
2 issues or comments. One, that under the consequences, that the electronic device is confiscated by administration, but so really the classroom teacher is first confiscated, and then the teacher has to then walk it down to administration. Just food for thought. That seems, if it's gonna rest with administration, I don't know, it puts more burden on teachers, I guess, or are they gonna be allowed to do it, and then they go down at the end of the day? It just seems odd that administrators are now gonna be the repository for all these devices whenever there's a consequence, because they're not actually in the classroom when the offense is taking place. The other issue that worries me is the educational use of electronic devices may be used in the classroom under the direction of the teacher and for educational purposes only. So you can bring in your own device, and I'm just wondering what the vision is for allowing it, because if it's part of classroom instruction, shouldn't then all students have access to the device? So some will, some won't. I don't know, I can see that being class warfare. And that bothers me. I have the newest thing, and look how fast it is, I can do X, Y, and Z. The other issue is, let's see, that we hold no liability, it keeps saying we hold no liability for lost, broken, or stolen. I'm just wondering why we have that over and over and over again. We're pretty much, I think we say it once, I don't think it needs to be in every grade level, every paragraph, that we're not gonna be responsible. I think just once is enough, you get the idea. But to me, if they're part of an educational process, then it should be equal access to all students. Or you take Mr. Nargi's route, where it isn't part of the educational process per se, or you don't pretend that it's going to be like that, and just, we're gonna have the policy that it's allowed in the high school essentially. But you can get pornography, you can have access to things very easily, very easily on electronic devices with any access to the internet, or bring things in personally, sexting. I don't know how to handle that. I don't know that our policy is going to prevent that from happening. I don't know if we should be encouraging that. Whereas if you own and operate the devices, you have absolute control over that. You allow people to bring that in on their own. You're ceding that control and saying, well, let the chips fall where they may. And you have an 18-year-old showing something to a 13-year-old. Concerns me.
Few concerns. Don't worry, don't smile too hard. Obviously, I've spent a long time debating with our young students who have very vigorously and energetically come forward for this. We do not have the support on the wireless network to be able to add on any additional devices. We cannot support the current devices for the board itself and what Torrington Public School owns. So having students bring in their own devices with the premise of having it be for educational purposes in the fall would be a waste of time, because they would have no internet access unless they themselves use their 3G or 4G access within the building, which, as anybody will tell you who has a cell phone, is going to be very limited in a metal Faraday cage. Doesn't work very well. So the premise of it being for educational is pretty much out the window at this point. The concept of students having the devices, they already do. Our students sat there repeatedly and told us how they use them currently in class. They put them in front of their books so the teachers don't see them. And their argument was that people are already doing it. Well, you're right. The speed limit on Route 8 southbound is 65 miles an hour. When there's not a cop there, you can travel at 110. But when there's a cop there, you're probably going to get a ticket if you're not getting your car impounded and arrested. So yes, there are rules out there, and you can break the rules, but there are always consequences for breaking the rules. Now, as far as just going as Mr. Nargi was describing, just saying, well, just put it out there and let the teachers decide what's functional for their classrooms. The challenge that I have is if you get a student who's really disruptive, they just don't want any part of the classroom. We've all sat in classrooms like that where somebody's just, they're having a bad day, they don't want to know anybody in the world, everything's going wrong. And they say, well, I just want to put on my music. And they turn around, they put their earbuds in, and now they sit in the back of the classroom. Teacher lets them do it because, well, they're quiet in the back of the classroom. So they just turn around and spend an entire lesson not actually learning anything, but not disrupting anybody, but just quietly sitting back there because it's allowed in our policy and the teacher said it was okay. Not something that I see as very beneficial for anybody. Not sure how you deal with those students, but I don't think just letting them tune the world out and delve into their own little reality is productive. I don't believe at this point that students need to have a cell phone in the classroom. They've got a phone there. If there's an emergency, they can call out. If a parent needs them, they can call the office. There's no lack of communication within the buildings. I don't see a point to that. I really don't see a point to an iPod. That's simply for music. You want to use it as a calculator? That's fine, or just go get the little Casio calculators. They fit inside the front cover of your book when you fold over the old newspaper bag. Works well. I don't agree with this in any way, shape, or form. There is no benefit to the classroom. There is no benefit to the educational process. And there is no structure or discipline for the young students who are coming out who may actually get a job somewhere where they don't have an opportunity, or they may lose their job if they use their cell phone during the day and their boss catches them. And we're saying, well, it's okay because it's too hard for us to enforce, so you just do it. And as I said, they're right. They're not paid to come to school. It's simply their expectation that they come to school. But someday they may wish to be paid for doing something. And, yep, there may be a consequence. If you bring your cell phone into a meeting, your boss may tell you by the end of the meeting, your desk is clean. So, I see no benefit to this program change in any level.
Oh, I just think, yeah, I'm basically, no, I'm basically against it, and I think, and what I think is the problem that Dan alludes to, we don't have the bandwidth, and et cetera, et cetera. Then there's the fairness issue that all kids don't have, and so now you've got unequal education, and the whole process of 20th century educational policies been toward, equality in education. Number two. Number three, I think it'd be, to your point, number one, I don't believe in capitulation. We've capitulated way too much as a Board of Education on way too many issues. And again, I'm about more for enforcing rigor and discipline and accountability. And I think it's grotesquely unfair to teachers to expect them to do what the Board of Education is unwilling to do and doesn't have the guts to do, which is to enforce a rigorous policy that is black and white and clearly defined. It is unfair to teachers to put them in that position, because they will be getting it from all sides, from parents who are accusing them of being too lenient, from parents who are being accused of too discriminating, of parents. No. My daughter's now a teacher, and I have this discussion with her. She's not even 22 years old yet, and she says, no, Dad. No. She just talked for a while, and English said, no, they don't belong in the classroom. No. If the teacher can't provide a curriculum, whatever she calls it, an approach to a lesson plan for study that can, stimulate, the more adept kids and service those who are slower at learning. So that's a problem with the teacher, but technology doesn't solve that problem. So anyway, I agree with her, and I agree with this guy, and I'm against it.
Okay. Well, that was our first read. Mr. Lang, we don't allow, once we finish the school and community session, we for years not allow people to just come up and speak. It would, unfortunately, our hound over here would most likely file an FOI against us if we were to change our policy at that point. You're more than welcome to email the board or be at the next policy committee meeting, however you want to communicate with us, but if we were to break that format, we would get in trouble. So, sorry about that.
They're at every policy.
Well, no, I just meant it.
I'm just saying.
Okay. Item J, 2013-2014 lunch prices. Danielle.
Okay, we
You
did
with us?
this, I'm still here. The USDA is mandating us to charge, if we're getting a reimbursement, a federal reimbursement, we have to at least be charging $2.46 per school lunch. We currently are not. We had to raise it last year by 10 cents. The inflation factor is a 1.14%, and they asked to combine with a required annual 2% point increase, which gives you a 3.14% that you need to multiply what your current school lunch is. So on the first page, our current school lunch is for 12.13, and what I am asking for the board to approve the new school lunches, it's raising each school by 10 cents.
Just,
It needs to be an action.
we're gonna take care of that in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Any discussion on it? Yes, sir.
I had a question, just the administration in regards to breakfast at schools. According to a 2011 school year report, with 43 free and reduced meal eligibility, there was only 18 being served school breakfast. I'm not drawing anything, but I don't know why. I don't know, maybe the administration would know. But I'll find out what that would be.
Well, we rolled out this breakfast program over a few years, so possibly that was just one school when we first rolled it out, and now we have all schools, so that could have been one reason why. But I can find out specifically. It was 2011, you said?
Yeah, that's the information that I have.
Okay.
If there's anything newer.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What's the bottom line to the school district, the 10 cents increase? Being that, for example, the students that are free and reduced, does that mean that the district, and i.e. the taxpayers, have to now pay an extra 10 cents per meal for each kid?
Right, the parents have to pay 10 cents more per lunch for their child if the board, if the district wants to still receive federal reimbursement for all our free and reduced
But that's not the question. I'm not talking about the person who, I'm talking about the free and reduced part. Those are parents that don't pay for any portion of their lunch, right? Or
The
whatever.
free, yeah,
Right.
the reduced
So
is-
what I'm saying is, even though that's being, it's 2.30 now, and whatever it is now, it's being paid by the taxpayers.
Nope, we get that money from the government.
Yeah, and the government normally gets their money from the taxpayer.
Right,
Okay, you're saying just not the local taxpayers?
right.
Okay, but some taxpayers actually paying for this. So now by increasing this, the government is going to charge the taxpayers an extra 10, they're gonna charge an extra 10 cents and get it from the taxpayers.
Right, and then give it back. Yeah, absolutely. It is a circle.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to make a motion to amend the agenda to add 2 action items. H, approval of 2013-14 lunch prices, and I, approval of non-bargaining contracts.
Get a second for second. Second came from Carl. Okay, discussion?
Don't we usually do that at the beginning of when we approve the agenda?
You can amend the agenda at any point with a 2/3 vote.
Okay, so it has to be 2/3.
2/3 have to approve it, or it doesn't pass. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Kisco is the only opposed. Okay. We're about to move into executive session. Unfortunately, it is 9:25. I think it's prudent of us to make a motion to extend the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Who said so? Chris? Okay. Second by Dan. All those, I think we're gonna have to at least add a half an hour to make it 10:30 at this point.
Oh, we just move it to 11.
Okay,
Just get the same
11.
As much time as we may consume.
I'm
Yes.
opposed to 11, 10:30.
Okay. All those in favor?
What was the motion exactly?
It's your motion.
No,
your
it
motion.
is.
10:30. 10:30? All those in favor of 10:30? Opposed? Okay. Motion to go into executive session to discuss non-bargaining unit contracts, made by Ellen, second by Chris. Joanne, can we get a room, please? Thank you. That just sounded wrong, I'm sorry.
Joanne, I can write up a complaint, there's still time.